Black folks don't go to the doctor. This the doctor who? Although we should because of hypertension.
Good evening, Richmond and surrounding areas. I'm Pat Lane, and it is my pleasure to serve as host of the show tonight. I'm a member of the Central Virginia chapter of the National Black Nurses Association, the mission chair for Richmond American Heart Association, the neuroscience coordinator for St. Mary's Hospital here in Richmond, and a proud graduate of Virginia State University. And in all of these things, I pledge to serve to you and to all mankind, and it's time to pay it forward. Happy New Year. It's 2013. It's time to start on a good note and a clean slate with resolutions and change. We have a very special show planned tonight with two very distinguished young gentlemen who will share their perspective on the subject of why don't black men go to the doctor? I would like to thank Brother Akil for bringing this topic to light. So let me introduce you to our guest. I have had the pleasure of knowing our first guest for the last few years as I met him at Old Dominion University through a mutual acquaintance, my daughter. And TiShaun Dennis is a senior marketing major with a minor in studio art. I will tell you that he's a hard-working gentleman and has always had a job and still held school down, which is what you want to do. This summer, he actually interned for Secours' Neuroscience program while in summer school. TiShaun is a resident of the 804 and will be going back this weekend to start the spring semester. TiShaun, thanks for coming on the show for us.
Thank you.
Our next guest is Kevin Bledsoe. Kevin is also a native Richmonder, and he is a marketing specialist for Radio 1. Kevin has a special talent of building close and productive relationships, showing businesses how to grow using creative promotions and teaching partners how to buy media with regard to event, internet, and radio marketing. Now, I must say, I certainly can attest to this, as Kevin and I just met last week, and he actually already has assisted me in being on a radio program with Clovia this Saturday to talk about a program that we will discuss tonight that kind of goes in hand with our topic. Kevin B is also a singer, announcer, actor, and on-air talent, and you'll hear this in his radio voice. His classy yet exciting vocal style has rendered the Simply Kevin B Show, which is a musical journey to place on your list of entertainment. Kevin believes that music crosses all boundaries and brings us closer together. He also believes the world will be a very different place if we all did something amazing for someone else. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And I'm very excited about it tonight. Audience, our hope is to dispel all myths, share perspectives, provide solutions for barriers, perhaps provide even resources to you to help us all get in track in 2013 towards better health. Quite frankly, to have everyone start that conversation in 2013 with your family about meeting your health goals and taking control. So let's get busy, or let's get jiggy as the kids would say it, and we're going to watch this YouTube segment to set us up tonight for the conversation.
They don't really eat sushi or stuffed raw fish.
We don't eat everybody's food, in particular potato salad.
I don't know what black folks don't do that other races do or don't do as well.
One of my good friends is a social psychologist at UCLA, and he's actually done a lot of research around what stereotypes do to people. Not just that they're conceptually bad, But what those expectations do and how that shows up in economic outcomes and health outcomes and incarceration outcomes, it damages actual black people.
Black folks don't go to the doctor. This doctor who? Although we should, because of hypertension and diabetes being so rampant in our community.
I disagree. I'm going to the doctor now. Yeah, I believe in early prevention, taking care of yourself, health and fitness. So we go to the doctor. Yeah, black folk do that.
My grandfather, who lives in Jamaica still, he, he refused to go to the doctor.
I know my grandfather didn't, and he had diabetes. He would go for it, but knowing that you have something that's not feeling right, I don't know if it's that you're scared and don't want to know, but he ended up having to get his foot taken because of diabetes, and I guess he didn't have feeling for a while, but didn't say anything either.
My own mother didn't like to go to the doctor very much, and when she did, she often had bad experiences. My mom actually passed away from colon cancer in 2005, and the last hospital she was in Massachusetts was just a terrible experience. I remember her in upstate New York complaining about the doctor, not fully listening, and sort of being a bit more dismissive.
My father was actually very skeptical of doctors. He thought that sometimes they would like to say things are wrong with you just so that they can get paid. Because when you have insurance and something's wrong with you and all this is wrong with you, well, now they're getting paid for doing this test and that test.
I come from a family where my dad died of cancer when I was very young, so like going to the doctor and having like checkups and all of these things was super important to my family, because it's just like, don't get sick, don't get sick.
Black folk don't go to the doctor. Well, I completely disagree with that. However, I think that has a historical basis as well, in that, at one point during the days of segregation, there wasn't no doctor to go to. In the days of slavery, they would bring the veterinarian to look at the enslaved people. And of course, he would stamp them ready to go back to work when they're sick as a dog, so they hated him.
Black folks don't go to the doctor. A lot of them don't, and I think that that's primarily a generational thing. My father, to this day, will actually almost burst into tears anytime he has to go to the dentist. Where they grew up in Philadelphia, it was in North Philly, and it was the 30s, 40s, it was the Depression. And there was what I think was a community college in the area, where it was all white people. And my parents, when they were kids, would go to this place for free examinations, free dental exams and health checks and that kind of stuff. And what they were doing was experimenting on them. So they were drilling into their teeth where there were no cavities, and they were poking and prodding them and giving them unlicensed drugs and all this kind of crazy stuff.
Black folk don't trust the medical industry because of a lot of reasons. I think historically it stems from the medical industry using black people as test subjects against their will.
You have the history of the Tuskegee experiments and the idea that doctors are being used to abuse your people, so that breeds a lot of distrust.
The United States government in the military gave black soldiers syphilis, injected them with syphilis to find out what would happen. So basically there were these experimental, monkeys, if you will, where they just did this.
They were actually lied to and told that they were being treated for something when they were actually being given a disease and dying off from that. So
I think that follows through, and especially the time period where my parents grew up during the Depression, when these things happened, you don't want to go to a white doctor because you're afraid that they're going to do something to you. They're going to hurt you, they're going to maim you, they're going to kill you.
My parents made a point when I was growing up in Maryland to take me to all black doctors, just so I at least knew that existed. Depending on what your cultural background is, a lot of people prefer herbs and roots and kind of an old-fashioned way of doing things where they feel like that old-fashioned way supersedes modern doctors. We have folk remedies and old wives' tales that are still, even though it was in the past, they still kind of sneak their way up into our day-to-day life.
My daddy's from the country, So I know a lot of times with them, and the stuff seemed to work too. Like they came up, they had their own things for, you know, ailments.
I don't think modern, younger black people are that way, though. I think that might be the older generation.
You have very unequal distribution of healthcare services. So the idea that there even is a doctor versus a clinic or an emergency room near enough to your home limits people's access to, you know, proper healthcare services.
If you have the ability, if you have money or good insurance to go to the doctor all the time, I think you will.
I think it deals with healthcare and who has it and who doesn't, who can afford it and who can't.
So I think a lot of black folk wait until I am super sick, like I have to be on my deathbed for me to go to the doctor and pay this money.
Now, I mean, you know, it's very fashionable to go to the doctor and to have many specialists, and, you know, the doctor said, and oh, I have and I take, and you know, and if you can name all your ailments and so on, and what the doctor told you, how limited you are, and so forth, so on. It's like a little sign of, you know, having arrived a bit.
Oh, that was interesting, just sharing those perceptions. And I think we have to remember that people's perceptions are real. And we're going to talk about a little bit more studies that we can talk about today, because what I want to really do is talk about those barriers, solutions, and what we can do in Richmond. But I do want to start with this and just say that truly while we're here, is there is a perception that black men do not go to the doctor. And truly the statistic is African American men do die an average of 7 years earlier than men in other ethnic groups. And this is usually from undiagnosed chronic diseases. So we're going to be talking about how we can make sure that we can change that trend. I mean, American Academy of Family Physicians survey found that 45% of men between 18 and 50 do not have a primary care physician. But I know this will be really interesting to Kevin, that 40% of men have never been tested for their cholesterol. So that was interesting when we started talking about screenings, and we're going to chime in on that. So audience, I know you're going to want to get in on this conversation tonight. So we're going to take calls between 9:30 and 9:45, and that number is 804-915-5202. So before I really get into the research and my social media polls, because I certainly did some with some of my friends on the subject matter, I want to first start out by asking both of you to really look back at your history as black men for me and share with the audience your first time you remember going to the doctor. And if you can remember, tell us why you went, who took you, and if you viewed it as a positive experience. So we're going to start with you, Kevin.
Well, my mother believed in taking good care of us, you know, so I can remember, I think I was about 13 years old when my first memory, I'm sure we went to the doctor prior to that, but my first memory of going to the doctor was 13. And it was a dentist. You know, we went for regular checkups, and it was a good experience. The dentist always took good care of us, and my mom certainly made sure that was the case. So for me, about 13, and it was a very good experience.
Okay. What about you, TiShaun?
Well, thinking back, I was probably about 6 years old, as far as my memory concerned.
Okay.
I was about 6 years old. My mother took me to the doctor because I remember I had a couple shots to get, and that wasn't very enlightening. But it was a good experience overall because I didn't know what to think of it and what was to come, and you don't really have so much insight on, you know, the doctor and the dentist at that age. But overall, as far as I remember, it was positive.
Okay, that's good. So both of you had that experience. So when was the last time you went for any type of screenings or maybe a shot or anything, or gone to see any type of doctor? We'll start with you, TiShaun.
To be honest, it was probably about a month ago that I went to the doctor because I had fractured my finger. It doesn't sound very, you know, masculine, but I did fracture my finger, went to the doctor, and I wanted to make sure I didn't have anything wrong or anything further wrong than a fracture. And the experience was well, but I was also scared to find out if anything else was wrong with me, you know. And as time has gone from beyond 6 years old to now me being 22, almost 23, I'm still, want to say vulnerable, or want to be educated on what I could possibly be prone to.
Okay. All right. And what about you, Ken?
Well, for me, you know, it started in June 20th, as I remember. I was in a major car accident. So as a result, I had been going to the doctor up until a month ago when I was released by my physical therapist. But that experience was a good one because I found out that physical therapy can put you back together. It was you know, a series of exercises that strengthened my body and got me back to a point where I can now work with a trainer who, by the way, his name is Tony Hill. I'll give him a shout out, Tony. You know, he's really helped me get back to normal in terms of my physical health. You know, during those visits, it was always that conversation about blood pressure, about glucose, about cholesterol. And if the doctor didn't bring it up, I brought it up. And one of the reasons is my association and my ambassadorship with American Heart Association that started 7 years ago. We've got to be asking those questions.
All right, and we're going to talk about, with the second half of the show, we're going to really talk about prevention and things that we can do in Richmond. But I want to just share again, because I want to dispel all myths on black men not going to the doctor today. So I did my research. I went to Virginia State University, biology and science. So I know they would be proud of me for sharing this. I wanted to just tell you about a story, one of the studies, there were 2 of them, done in 2011. And I'm interested in hearing what you thought and whether this was your top 10, one of your top 10 reasons of why you felt like brothers don't go to the doctor. So the study was January 2011, and it was at the University of North Carolina. And it concluded that really mistrust was the #1 reason black men didn't go to the doctor. Not because they didn't display, as you said, a manhood or machoism, but they emphasized that there was a mistrust, which led them to delay in care. And consequently, that changed from somebody going from primary prevention, like just getting your blood pressure checked, to now waiting and delay and having hypertension, where your numbers, which we want you to know, everybody, shout out this, if your blood pressure is over 120/80, then you're pre-hypertensive. So in that retrospect, if somebody was 120/80 in the beginning and they waited and their blood pressure was over that, now they're in a whole different phase. So it also said that real men, I mean, it comes back from the norm of how you were growing up, meant that you were self-reliant, and that self-reliance is what caused that delay. So I want to stop here and talk about that, because a lot of men feel that way, that they're self-reliant. Or do they feel that way, and should we get this out of the way and not talk about it?
So, I mean, I think that that distrust is probably true. One, for some of the reasons that we saw in the YouTube video, and then other reasons, people have this understanding sometimes, especially black men, that when I go to the doctor, they're just going to find something wrong with me, and I'm gonna pay that $25 to go, you know, that copay to go to the doctor. They're going to probe me, and they're going to find a reason to test me again and pull more money out of my pocket. How many tests does a man have to go to the doctor? You know, while in the doctor's office, you know, are these tests really necessary? So I think that probably aligns with what you were saying.
Okay.
You know, the distrust piece, in my opinion.
And what about you? I'm real curious of you. With your generation, I heard the lady say, well, I think it was generational. Did you ever have any thought about distrusting any doctor or healthcare professional? Has that thought come to your mind?
I honestly haven't.
Okay.
Because
good.
I do not believe I've had enough experiences to find that out. I've usually been taken through my parents because I'm still on their healthcare.
Okay.
And for the most part, many physicians and doctors that I've dealt with have been pretty accurate and haven't really led me wrong. But as far as being self-reliant, I don't get the daily checkups and regular checkups that I need to get. So I know that there is that assumed risk, as Mr. Bledsoe has said, that there's something is already going to be stated to be wrong with you. And I may suffer from the same reason many African American males do in the community, but in my society and at my age, I know that is a reason and that is a factor.
Okay, so let's go back to your finger. Did your mother say you need to go, or did you really say, I gotta go?
My mother said
Macho.
See, it's always how it is. My mother said I need to go, so I need to go. The second study was really interesting, and I want to talk about that, and then we're going to move on to some things that we can do to change in my poll from my friends. The second study was also done with African men, and I should tell you these studies were done like in barbershops, you know, in places where, you know, men go, and they were done from ages 18 to 50, so that was really good. But the second study actually said the African American men felt like the visit was no help to them, that they felt like, and this was done in Detroit and Flint. The first one was done down in the South. And the reason why they felt that was because they said they really gave them no resources or guided them. Like they was, and they felt like physicians would talk down to them. And they felt really bad about that. Like, I know I need to lose weight, but what can I do to do that? And you won't want to see me for 6 more months. So that's what we're going to really talk about, that program. So I want to know, in any of the times when you have been to the doctor, have you had any bad experiences with healthcare practitioners that you felt like didn't explain things to you, or you felt like you still didn't know what to do when you left that practice? So I don't want to.
For me, I've never had that experience. I mean, you know, I've gone to the doctor. I've made it a point to ask questions, especially in my adult life.
Okay.
You know, we have to help the doctor help us.
Okay.
And I think that's very, very important. You know, if you're feeling an alien, something ailing you, make sure that you bring that up. Don't try to remember it. Write it down when you're feeling it. So when you go, you're asking the right questions. It's not like you can walk into the doctor's office anytime you want.
Right.
You have to make an appointment. You've got to wait on them. And so, you know, it's just always been a good experience for me. I will, however, share an experience of my brother-in-law. His name is Randolph, and he, for quite some time, was quite the guy to go and work on cars. You know, that was his thing. And over the last, I'd say over the last 3 or 4 years, you know, his health started to deteriorate a little bit. You know, he had some heart issues. He had a mild heart attack, a mild stroke. And so all these things were happening to him, and he was on so many medications, you know, like a lunchbox full. And after, I think it was this past summer, he went to the doctor, and he went to the emergency room, and they said, hey, you know, you really need to be admitted because your pressure's high, and you know, you talked about all these things were wrong. So he finally settled down and went to the doctor, got the care he needed, and now he's back up doing some of those things again. So for a long time, he was just accepting the fact that these things were wrong. You know, I'm fatigued. You know, I feel bad, but I'm taking medicine for it. But when he had an issue and had to go to the doctor again, and some of those things were questioned, and I will say it was my sister who prompted the questions. But he is now well, and I'm very happy for him.
All right, and what about you? Have you had any experiences where you felt like, or a physician didn't talk to you, or anything like that, TiShaun?
There was a couple years back when I had gotten bronchitis, and the doctor gave me a treatment and gave me certain medicines to take just to, you know, relieve my pain. But he didn't tell me exactly what I wanted to hear as far as like how many weeks I would need to take certain medicines and things of that nature. Now, there's a flip to this because I didn't ask, and I didn't think to ask him what further actions I should take to make sure that my health is secure and that I won't have these problems later on. And I think that with my age and my society, we don't ask those questions. And I actually, the next time I had a visit for a different reason, my mother came with me and she asked all the necessary questions that needed to be asked. And I've been pretty healthy since. I take vitamins every day. And excuse me, I haven't gotten bronchitis or any other disease or illness of that nature since, and I've been pretty healthy.
Okay, great. That's good. So when my social media poll, when I knew I was going to do this show, I wanted to know from my other male perspectives, why didn't they go? And so these were, I feel like Steve Harvey on the Family Feud when you say top 10 answers were. But ego was one, pride, which was different because you don't want to ask that question because you want them to think you know everything. Fear, and then no time. I'll put it off. I'll go to bed and wake up and it'll be fine. Mistrust, misguided education, because you go to the website and see this, I'm diagnosing, I'll get that done. Economics, which I think is a real issue in the healthcare system and access. So as we talk about that today, again, our goal here is while we have this subject, we're going to talk about some things and programs that we want you to be really aware of. And we have about, 2 minutes before we'll start taking calls. That number again is 804-915-5202. But this month, as we talked about with New Year's and resolutions, is the time to make a clean slate and a healthy start. And February is Heart Month. Unfortunately, 1 in 3 persons, so up here on the stage, 1 in 3 have hypertension. And so what we're trying to do, so hypertension is high blood pressure. We're trying to get out to the community, and we are going to succeed. I've met Kevin now and TiShaun in marketing. I'm going to market as much as I can in Richmond so we can make sure we decrease that. Is that we have a special program with the American Heart Association, Secours, Virginia Neuroscience Institute, as well as the Center for Blood Pressure and the Central Virginia Black Nurses. In that we have a get-to-goal. Let's take control of your blood pressure. And so we want to dispel again that you want to have that control. And the first thing is to acknowledge that we need to know our bodies and our baseline. That's first thing. But probably back to that, one of my first questions when I said to Kevin and TiShaun about when did you go to the doctor, you have to have that comfortability with that and know your baseline and know that really we're there to be able to help you with doing that. So know the questions that you need to ask and at your age and know your genetics. So if I were to ask you what runs in your family tree, which is exactly what American Heart teaches. That's one of my favorite things when you go to your family reunions. Hey, what happened to Aunt so-and-so, or what's going on with her? Because if you know about your family history, then you can maybe change your history in that as well. So have you talked about that with your family? Do you know what your mom and dad or your grandparents have? TiShaun, do you talk about that at all, their health issues? Or
relatively, we talk about it. One thing that does run in my family is high blood pressure.
Okay.
And it's on one particular family member's side.
Okay.
And I also have shared that trait, so at a young age I have to watch my cholesterol. No, I said blood pressure. I meant cholesterol.
Okay.
Excuse me. And I take fish oil pills daily, and I eat my Cheerios. So.
Okay. All right. And then Kevin, you talk about your cholesterol as well. That's interesting.
Yeah. And I did find out from the doctor that what they say is it's hereditary. Now, my opinion is that, however hereditary, it's probably just hereditary in the eating habits. Over the years. You ate what your parents ate, and they ate what their parents ate, and as a result, your body has gained too many toxins and a hub for these diseases to take place. But high cholesterol has been an issue for me for years, and I've had to, have the proper diet and exercise, to keep those things under control. Hypertension is something we need to do our very best to stay away from because it can cause stroke and heart disease.
So let's talk about that, because some people may not even realize about cholesterol and blood pressure. And those two together are not a good combination. Let me not even throw in diabetes. Those are the top risk factors for stroke and heart attack. But I want to make it real clear, because even in the study, the one thing they pointed out was men did not know their cholesterol level. So when we talk about cholesterol level, what we'll be looking at is there's a total cholesterol, and then you have an HDL and an LDL. Your HDL is one that we want you to be high or over 40, and want it to be healthy. Your LDL is one I say is one that you want to be low because it's lethal, and you want it to be under 100. Cholesterol, I want you to know, community, that is something that may build up plaque, and so that the blood in your system may not be able to move around like it's supposed to. And that's when you have problems and will lead to these heart disease and stroke and heart attack. So cholesterol is something that is really big that we want to look at. Now, that's what Kevin is an ambassador for American Heart Association, and they have so much education. Sometimes you don't know, TiShaun, like you said, what questions to ask, or don't feel bad if you're ill-prepared or going and didn't ask that question. You know, there are so many things now that you can do to be able to get that information, and they want you to know. On next Friday, the 18th of January, we're here to help the community in Richmond. We are going to have a get-to-go kickoff, and there we will be having all kinds of information. Radio One will be there. We'll be doing blood pressure screening. We'll have a nutritionist there. This program is really special, and then it's not going to leave you hanging. You will have somebody to be able to help you. With everybody that signs up, the goal of this is that you will take your blood pressure twice a month, so that you will know your numbers, so that you will be in the area that if your number is a little high, we can be able to say, okay, let's look at this. Is this something that's not for real, or is it something that was just a one-time thing? And then you'll have a coach. Nothing like having somebody say, hey, what's up? Did you do that today? And a friendly reminder to be able to look at that. We have physicians that are going to be helping with that. And we also have, like I said, nutritionists. Exercise is a big thing that's going to be going around. And so that's next Friday, again, at the Fairfield Boys and Girls Center. And that's 2809 Phaup Street, Phaup. And so we're looking forward to that. And we're working with churches on that as well, and physicians, as I said, and some organizations out in the community for anybody who's interested in that. And if you go to the American Heart website, you'll be able to see that as well. And I'll give my email address as well, so you can write that down. So, talking about hypertension, and you both said cholesterol ran in your family. Does high blood pressure run into your family as well? No.
Not in mine.
Okay.
There's some that have high blood pressure, but it's not a trait that goes deep into our family tree.
Okay.
Per se.
Okay.
Cancer does.
Okay.
On both my father's side and my mother's side. I lost my dad to a tumor.
Okay.
My aunt to cancer. My niece to cancer. Cancer runs deep in our family.
So let me ask you this, Kevin, when you've had that conversation, let's go back and talk about that. Do you go to the same physician? Do you have a good rapport with your physician?
I do.
Okay. And you go to the same one?
Yeah.
Do you think that makes a difference?
I think it does. It builds trust. And in order to track your health, I mean, I'm 49 years old. So over the years, whenever issues have occurred, I've had to track what's going on in my health. The history, because sometimes you'll go and you'll forget what your numbers were the last time you were there, and then you get refreshing. When you get them taken again, know what they were the last time, and then know what they are the present time, so that you can actually compare and determine whether you're progressing or you're failing to progress.
Let me take this call. Hey,
Sure.
caller, how are you?
Well, how y'all doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. How can we help you, caller?
Well, first I want to say, I have a friend, right? Now he even has a machine that checks his blood pressure and all this stuff,
Okay.
And after church, every Sunday, you know where he at, don't you? He's right up there at the buffet, and like eating things that he shouldn't be eating, of course. And at the same time checking his blood pressure. But like I said, people have to start eating right, because he's definitely not eating salad. But what I wanted to ask about the guy in the middle, he was talking about his brother, and I wanted to say the whole time that your brother was taking those medications, he was going to a doctor, right? Okay, now so that meant that by the time he got to that hospital, those doctors wasn't doing what they could have been doing, that the hospital saw what needed to be done. And this is what I'm trying to say. It's like a lot of doctors are like pill pushers, and that's it. I mean, they're not there to heal. They're just there to put a bandage on you so you can come on back. Because most likely the thing that was done with him at the hospital could have already had been done. You understand? Without him taking all those pills.
Right. Well, let me.
And that's all. That's what I want to say.
Okay, thanks. And I want to talk about all the points that you made. I think you may have to hang up to hear me. But, okay, thanks. One of the things that I want to say about that, and this is where we do have to have some healthcare reform, and I'm glad that passed, so that we can have some more assistance with that. For example, now you can stay on your parents' insurance until you're 26, so there's no broken coverage. When doctors usually see you in the office, you might not come back. They'll say, I'll see you in 6 months. Everything good, or you don't know what's going on, I'll see you in 6 months. That actually is probably too long. So caller, when you were talking about your significant person in your life and they are getting blood pressures, they probably are not coming back. So the program that we have, we're checking up with people every 2 weeks. Our providers will be looking at their numbers as well, which will help to indicate if their treatment plan was effective.
Sure.
So when I thought about that with you, Kevin, with your brother-in-law, it may have been 3 months, and they may have said, well, when you read some of the side effects on the labels and you talk to the pharmacist, you may say, well, this is how I'm supposed to feel. But I would say, know your baseline, and if you're not feeling well, don't hesitate to pick up that phone and say, I don't think this is working for me. And then know your numbers or what's going on, and caller, please tell people you have to be truthful. That's the one thing I do say. My family is like, oh my God, please don't call her unless you're going to tell her the truth. You got to know your numbers. When your last time you took your medicine, what did you eat? Your whole pattern, because we can't really help you if we don't know that full story. And I don't know if you guys want to comment to the caller about
I'd like to comment, and I think, he had to also take some responsibility, because although doctors may be pill pushers to a certain degree, they are sometimes trying to find out really what medicines work best for you and your issue. And so as you are as you're going through that treatment, you've also got to let them know whether the medicine is working, whether it's not working. And that dialogue is what helps to get you better. It's a team work process, not just the doctor gives you and you accept, but the doctor gives you and you go over, you assess how it makes you feel. And then you come back and say, hey, doc, I've been taking this medicine for a month and it's really not helping me. Or I'm even more fatigued every day. I'm feeling worse than I was before. So that dialogue in defense, in the doctor's defense, that dialogue needs to happen from the person who is ill as well, to help the doctors, help them.
And I think that's one of the things that, caller, we're really starting to look at that in curriculums in med school too. having the conversation and thinking, you know, what else do I need to ask? For example, and I'll be, you know, one of the reasons why they may try some medications is they may want to do the real medication or the generic medication. They, you know, and again, they may say, you know, can you afford it? Some people can't. So they may have to try different recipes, if you will, to see what will work. The important conversation piece is to say that that healthcare practitioner needs to say, if it's not doing this by this time, I need to hear from you. You know, and don't feel like, you know, well, I don't want to bother, I don't want to be a burden. They're there to help you. And I think that's one thing that I want to really stress as well. TiShaun, you have anything you want to add to that? I know with the questions or...
Just that with not people that are my age, as far as males, black males, my age, males at all ages, there's sometimes the assumed idea that we can wait until we feel something and then get medication on it, or just because doctors deem pill pushers, I should say, that we could do that ourselves, since we can go to the doctor and find a pill that treats this and treats that. But in most cases, doctors need those checkups every now and then because they find other things that are wrong with us, and there's ways that we can prevent certain injuries from happening later, or illnesses happening from later, because an uncle of mine had gotten an illness that a doctor told him if he came a year before, it would have been prevented, and he didn't feel anything until later, and that's when it was too late.
And that's a great point when we talk about not feeling anything. I want people to know that hypertension is known as the silent killer. Because, and that's what makes it so bad. You don't know usually until something else has happened that you have high blood pressure. And so it's very important, even at your age, at 20s, to have that blood pressure checked at least once a year. At least at age 20. And then when you go up to 30 and 40, twice a year, or, you know, check it yourself. Now, in every Walmart, CVS, there are places you can go. Again, American Heart has things as well on information on that. And if you know your family history, is very important.
And on the 18th, they can come get it checked.
They come get it free checked. We got some free gifts and some recipes and some music to make you feel good while you're doing it. Now, Carla, the second part of your conversation, I got to get on my nutrition bit when you said, and you know where he is on Sunday and our big Sundays dinners, and I'm thinking about the Soul Food movie. And we enjoy our food, but everything in moderation. So you can't have fried chicken every day and then you want to have a salad. It's just not going to work. And so you need to figure that out. What is something that we can do together in moderation? You can have 3 times a week, or if you're willing to do it twice a week and then go out there and walk with me for about 30 minutes, then we need to do that. And you got to make it fun. If you cut somebody off, there is no way and say, we're going to do cold turkey, I'm going to have a salad every day for the rest, just kill me now. I mean, just really. You really need to think about, and that's a good conversation for you to have with your doctor. How can I really make this happen? And that's what the Get to Goal program will do. You'll be enrolled in a, not only getting your blood pressure taken, but we'll have information for you on nutrition, physical fitness, really looking at you and what you're doing now to slowly, gradually have you go to a lifestyle where of good moderation and health, so that you again will start to put a little pep in your step and start to feel better.
And you have to change your mindset.
You have to change your mindset.
You really have to feel that this is something very important, and that you want to control the rest of your life. So today is the first day of the rest of your life. If you're listening to this program, know that you need to know your numbers, and certainly you need to come out on the 18th. We keep stressing this because to be connected to Get to Goal is going to be a major improvement of health in our communities because of the communication that's going to come out of it. You can get your information text to you, a call to remind you, that you need to check your blood pressure, your numbers, and it will help you to manage your health over time.
Absolutely.
I don't think there's been anything like this available to our communities in the past.
Nope. And we can, from that text, you have a conversation. Again, it's going to be able to build that mentorship to help you sustain a better health. The other thing is this program in Richmond is going to have so many resources. For example, so when we talk about maybe you can't afford or you don't have access or I can't pay for my medication, right here in Richmond on 1200 West Carey Street, they're going to celebrate their 30th year anniversary, is a Center for High Blood Pressure.
Yes. Dave, good work.
Oh my gosh, she does fabulous work. So that whole center is set up with VCU, Bon Secours, pharmacy students. So if you don't have insurance, or if you work for a small business and don't have insurance, and you have hypertension, or we see that you have those numbers, you can go there to get your lab work done, to get your prescriptions filled, to get nutrition counseling. We're going to start looking at how to cook right. I hope somebody cook for me every day to be able to do that. But to change, again, the behaviors. What I wanted to say with this show is why we said why black men don't go. It should be why we are doing what we do to get better. So we wanted to start that way, but to have the audience and community know that we're resources. We're here to pay it forward to you tonight so that you can be able to get over that hump and to have a better, healthier lifestyle for you. So certainly we wanted to make sure that we talk about that often, and we'll be doing something. You'll see it in Urban Views. You'll hear it on Radio 1. This is a program that I think will be supported by everyone in Richmond, and it'll be a fun program because, again, we all want to have fun and healthy lives. So let's talk about some other male issues. While I know I'm talking about American Heart, we have like 14 minutes, but some other things when you talked about, Kevin, cancer in your family, and having that conversation with your doctor and having those tests, those are important as well. And I know men fear away from that as well.
Well, we have cancer insurance. We felt felt it was that important to make sure, both on my side and my spouse's side, her father died of cancer as well, lung cancer. And so we just want to make sure that we're covered, we're adequately covered if such a disease does attack us. We try to stay healthy, try to do the right thing where our, nutrition intake is concerned, so there isn't that hub for disease to live. I was talking to Dave earlier this morning at the High Blood Pressure Center, and basically, he shared how important it was. No matter how much you go out and, we've got guys in the gym. I work out at Gold's, I work out at the YMCA, and guys are in the gym just pumping iron, and they look great. And they might feel great in the moment. And sometimes they're all torn up inside, because of diet. We have to make sure that what goes in our bodies, first and foremost, are corrected. And then we can work from the inside out, to glow and feel good going forward.
And TiShaun, I know I talked about this on Clovia's show, which will air this weekend. I know you're a struggling college student, buddy. And this is a deal. I said, please stay away from canned foods. I know the lines are going to light up now. I'm glad it's almost over. Stay away from the canned foods because of the high sodium. Anything that can sit on your shelf for 13 or more years should not be sitting in your stomach or being able to do that. So we want to go more to fresh foods, vegetables. We're going to have recipes that people can be able to see. How can we be able to do that so that you can be healthier? Because that's part of that. When you look at cancer, you need to have some of the foods that are easily digestible, no pesticides. We're looking at all that. And right here in the backyard, And Richmond is, I'm going to give a shout out to my alma mater, Virginia State University has one of the best agricultural centers there where you can have your own garden. And a lot of churches now here in Richmond are having gardens on their property and at their churches. So we need to know how to be able to do that and to look at it. And again, we're talking about in moderation, but it's a change of knowing that I need to make that change and to be able to start that nutritional change in doing that.
Absolutely.
So fast foods and things all, again, has to be in moderation. And it was a treat. We were talking about that with Chloe, and then our sugars with diabetes also as well.
She made me laugh when she said this morning, you know, women they have their makeup on and they're looking glamorous and they're tore up on the inside.
So she said, tore it from the floor was what she told me yesterday, and just doing it in the shows. Now I understand, I know we're talking about black men don't go to the doctor, but nutrition, knowing your numbers for high blood pressure, knowing to stay away from the salt, definitely keeping away from the other S word, which is smoking. So on the 18th, again, we will have information on, I know that people say it's very difficult for me to stop smoking. But there are, again, there are ways that we can be able to help you to do that. So I hope you come out on the 18th with that. And people are concerned if they stop smoking, they'll gain weight. We have some answers to that as well. So I hope to see you all at the Boys and Girls Club as well for that, to be able to talk about that. But I want to talk about in the cafeteria, or how are you doing your foods in college? Do you have fast foods and meal plans, and have you noticed any differences and changes
well, there's definitely a cafeteria. There's a few cafeterias, and fast food is really convenient. And not only my campus at Old Dominion University, but at other campuses as well. I've noticed in the environment there's usually at least 3 or 4 fast food venues in the area that are just right there where you can get something for cheap. And in most cases, most college students do that because, you know, expenses are very, very high, and we just spend what we can. But they're starting to implement more nutritional bases as far as like baked foods and baked chips and things of that nature that are a little bit better than the, you know, foods that we eat from day to day. And we're young, so we don't really think too much about health and what needs to be stressed that we'll think about later. We're like, we can put it off. But the campuses and other colleges do a good job actually promoting healthcare and what we should eat and what we should do about our bodies and stuff. We just ignore it.
Okay. Well, that's good to know too. I think one of the things that I wanted to have on the 18th was we wanted to have healthy snacks, and then we wanted to put a cost to it with a price, because that's, economics is real. That's you know, this is a public TV, and I'm certainly not Oprah Winfrey, so I need to be able to know how much I can be able to eat for them. People always say it's much easier for me to eat a canned food is much cheaper than that. But I'm going to go back to cholesterol, and I will tell you that Quaker Oats works. So going back to that one, I wish I would have brought the canister today. But there are things that you can do. The other thing that I think is really good is that when we're looking at healthy snacks, and now they make them in all different packages, that's a family thing that you can do with your family, setting up on Sunday, let me make these snacks for the week, to be able to do that, buy in bulk. Those Costco and Sam's are really good with that. Walmart has joined with American Heart Association in another program called Simple Cooking. And so they're starting to teach us some ways and to be able to be economically sound with being able to have some good meals with that. But I'm going to go back again to hypertension, and especially young men, and being the silent killer. Please, 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 I would say, if you are definitely over age 30, you want to make sure that you get your blood pressure checked at least twice a year is what we are looking for. And when you get over 40, you need to really, I would say, check it on a quarterly basis to be able to do that. And your numbers, again, anything that is over 120, over 80 on a consistent basis, We want to make sure that you're seeing your healthcare practitioner with that. And then write it down. Take your blood pressure at different times of the day, too. Our body, you know, our body is here to trick us sometimes and to do different things. So you want to think about that as well. Now, we have about 5 minutes left, and so I don't know if you want to say anything. TiShaun, I know you're very active physically. So if you want to talk about that, and do you feel differently if you don't work out, and what do you try to do to stay healthy? And the college life is busy as well. Yeah. You have any words of wisdom for those who are, especially, and we didn't talk about stress at all, but stress is another factor as well. Could have a whole show on mental health and stress and final times of how we do our things. But if you want to give any words of wisdom to our young generation about going to the doctor, that'd be great.
Yeah, just to continue to be physically active and not only physically active, but mentally active. We need to continue to work our minds, like going to class and things of that nature. We don't want to get lazy. And getting daily checkups, not necessarily daily, but weekly or monthly, because we want to make sure that, you know, we don't have anything come up later, that we don't have a problem. We don't want any illnesses or detriment any of our family members to come, you know, because we are the future and they are the future. So being that it's a new year, we're reluctant enough to live another year of life and see 2013, and we just want to be better than what we have.
And I would say you guys are great role models for those high school, junior high school students and elementary school, and changing some of those behaviors. I hear them all the time. I hate what's in the cafeteria food. Well, this is why. We want you to be here for a long time. Kevin, you have any closing words?
Well, it's really all about the choices you make. And first, I want to say thank you, man, for even being here, for having a voice, you know, at your age, to be concerned with making a difference, because the difference needs to be made everywhere. You know, people think just because they're young people, you know, just because he plays on the football team, he can escape this thing called stroke. But if you pay attention to the news, you'll see we're dying at very young ages with heart conditions and stroke, and it's partly because of what we put in our bodies. So, you know, I just want to encourage and truly encourage the youth, you know, to continue to search for your dreams, you know, search for your passion, and to know and believe that you can be whatever you want to be. You know, I try to share in every opportunity I get. The only difference between the person you are today and the person you aspire to be is time. Where are you spending your time? And by you spending your time here today, this is where you'll find your success. You'll live longer and you'll help others to do the same.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, again, I'm going to put out a plug for next Friday, January the 18th. Please come out to our Get to Go. You'll see it advertised very heavily this weekend. It is a Get to Go, target your control for your health. We will have specialists there, physicians, nutritionists, line dancing. We're going to have some snacks. We're going to have some fun. But most of all, we're going to enroll you in a program that is going to really work with you at minimum every other week. You're going to get a text, a phone call, an email. So you can't have any age limits here talking about that, you know, I don't do that texting thing or that computer thing, because I know everybody uses a telephone and can be able to get that done. So at 2809 Fopp Street is where we're going to be from 9 to 12 on next Friday. It's going to be the start. Martin Luther King's real birthday is the 15th, but his weekend celebration, and we're going to have a lot of celebrations that weekend. Come and start it off with us for the kickoff, so that we can make sure that we have equity in our health care, and that we can have Richmond rocking, and that everybody will be aged. Thank you very much, and have a good 2013.